Freddy, Jason, Michael, Leatherface, Chucky, all icons of horror. When it comes to the 21st century, however, no new additions have had quite the same level of impact as Art the Clown. First established in a series of short films before his feature debut in 2013's All Hallows Eve, Art remained a bit of a cult figure, until the clown shoes were taken on by David Howard Thornton in 2016's Terrifier, and over time a legacy was established. Now, in Terrifier 2, the madness continues, and has been causing a stir in mainstream media, with many reports of vomiting and passing out in cinema screenings. Let's see just what level of nightmare fuel Art and Damien Leone conjured up in this 2022 sequel. There will be major spoilers ahead. The film kicks off without any time wasting, picking up right from where Terrifier left us. Having blown apart his clowny noggin, Art has resurrected under mysterious circumstances in the morgue. And let me tell you, the opening 8 minutes of this film sets a precedent for the carnage that ensues. Due to guidelines, I won't be able to show you an awful lot, but trust me, the gore within this film is completely absurd. Some of the stuff we experience in this film will absolutely have stomachs turning. So let's get into it. While in the morgue, Art uses a surgical hammer to smash the face of the coroner, proceeding to then thumb out one of his eyes to comedically replace his own with, before finally putting him to an end and cracking open his head like a Kinder egg. For the first kill in the film, that's one hell of a way to get the ball rolling. Flesh and bones and body parts are like bloody, mushy clay that Art contorts with force throughout the film, and it's never an easy watch. I don't feel like there's any particular scene that contests the infamous upside down scene from the first Terrifier. However, I think that on average, the level of brutality here is far more consistent and makes the film work out into being a much gorier film than the first. We also get a new addition to the Terrifier universe of something, again, that the guidelines won't like me using much due to child protection, and that's the little girl clown. In her backstory, she was killed aged 10, and now she's returned as a hallucination that only a couple people can see. She ends up teaming with Art and being his little accomplice, but she is complete nightmare fuel in herself. She has this permanent fixed grin that is deeply unsettling, and she too contributes a lot of horrific stuff to the film. As the film progresses, the amount of flat-out bonkers body horror is so exaggerated that I completely understand why so many people have retched at Terrifier 2, leaving them in a sickened state. I just need to rattle off a bunch of the gruesome highlights here. When Art first meets the little girl clown in the laundrette, her body empties a disgusting brown liquid onto the floor. Which orifice that came from, I really don't want to ask, but neither option is pleasant. Later in the film, a dead rodent gets found at school, and Art and the girl clown end up playing with its innards. At a Halloween store, Art smashes a bottle across the cashier's face and then into it before going to town on him with a meat cleaver. One girl, Ali, has a little too much length off the top. Her limbs are bent like licorice and snap like twigs. An arm is severed completely before Art uses a combination of bleach and salt to cover her body in agonizing, stinging pain. Then Art uses her mother's head as a candy bucket for trick-or-treating kids. We have a double-barreled shotgun blowing a head apart, acid thrown into someone's face, multiple knife wounds to the man parts. Like seriously, Terrifier 2 has zero chill when it comes to being totally disgusting. For all the lovers of Scream out there in the world, you'll have a wild ride with this one. But if you're a little sensitive to the nasty side of the horror genre, then you're gonna perhaps be shell-shocked for quite some time after this one, if you can make it through to the end, that is. But what takes us through to the end? What's the actual plot here? Well, despite also being a little incoherent, it certainly did offer more than the first Terrifier did. We have a young woman named Sienna. She's got a mother and brother. The father of the family went crazy and had premonitions about Art the Clown's chaos and imagined Sienna as being the savior to protect everyone and finish Art off. So that's what we get here, really. A little bit of mystery, plus giving Art someone to have a bit more of an even fight against. To relate this back to nightmare fuel, it all comes right back to Art himself. And for all the coulrophobes out there, this fella must sit on the Iron Throne of fear. That's because Sienna is stalked by Art throughout the film, and yeah, you've got all the mad levels of body horror throughout the film to sicken your stomach, but for me, more of the fear factor came from Art's demeanour. He's such a great looking villain. Brilliant costume, Thornton's skeletal face and the way he moves, plus the expressions he pulls. It's no wonder why Art is now so iconic. He's a mute lunatic without any kind of filter, so in those scenes where he just kinda stands and looks at people for eerily long periods of time, those moments were what unsettled me the most. The prime example of this for me was in the Halloween store. Sienna goes to buy some costume stuff to create the outfit that her father drew her in years ago, and Art rocks up. He's a little bit like Freddy at times, where he enjoys taunting his victims equally to killing them. He just stands in the distance and smiles at Sienna. I can't even recall him blinking, and his wide, toothy grin and psychotically stretched open eyes, it's a truly freaky gaze. The tension comes from never quite knowing what Art is going to do or when he's going to do it. He's a loose, unpredictable cannon, and considering just how unhinged the Terrifier films are anyway, as a first-time watcher, you can only imagine what's going through Art's head, what his intentions for his next actions are. And in this scene, he just kinda intimidates via being disturbing and comedic, before doing a 180 in character tone into seriousness. This comes after Art has tried to be funny with Sienna downstairs, but then she runs away and has left her bag downstairs. The second she realizes, Art dumps the bag on the counter and walks away. That shift from being jovial into being brutish really emphasizes the unpredictable nature of Art the Clown. Speaking of unpredictability, I also really like his weapon choices. He doesn't have a single iconic weapon like Jason's machete or Freddy's glove. He's got a whole array of weapons that he uses, and that also keeps the character's actions unforeseeable. You know something bad is gonna happen, but you don't know how, and that can keep you on your toes. I love how his weapons are mostly mundane things that he's just cobbled together, like his whip chain with loads of keys and sharp bits of metal at the end, or sticking loads of cutlery into a chair leg like a medieval mace. Art the Clown's arsenal is a catalogue of random bits and parts that have been merged into deadly and creative killing and torture devices that are so gruesome in their execution and in how they execute. But even though Art goes for some pretty mundane items in the waking world, when it comes to Sienna's dream world of the Clown Cafe, where she imagines herself as a kid, where Art pops up for entertainment, Art goes big here. He guns down a crowd of people with a Tommy gun and then uses a little handheld flamethrower to burn the remainders. That's something I didn't expect to see Art using. It's completely nuts. Even seeing Art having his own breakfast cereal, but it's full of insects and razor blades, it felt so in character with Art, yet also just a mind-blowing inclusion of what the hell am I watching vibes. I think that Terrifier 2 definitely deserves a spot in our Nightmare Fuel vault for a couple different reasons. Art the Clown is undebatably the newest true horror movie icon, and I've no doubt that we'll get a Terrifier 3 to wrap up a trilogy, and perhaps even go beyond. David Howard Thornton looks great and plays the role so creepily that he's freaking people out all over the world. If you're horrendous enough to carve a name for yourself in one of the most saturated genres in the world, then you've earned your spot in our Hall of Fame. Secondly, there's the gore. This is more Nightmare Fuel for the eyes. It's disgusting. Organs and flesh and blood are hurled all over the screen. Blunt force trauma, carving up, slicing up. The film just has zero chill when it comes to how far it can push the needle into overdrive. The little girl clown was a creepy addition too, and could become somewhat of an icon herself if they decide to bring her back. Overall, Terrifier 2 was a roller coaster, specifically the one from Final Destination 3 where everyone dies. Kudos to Damien Leone for creating a horror franchise with real genuine buzz and a hardcore fan base for it, and also for providing providing the world with some seriously messed up nightmare fuel. But what did you lot think of Terrifier 2? Let me know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video, a cheeky sub would be much appreciated to help the growth of the channel. I've been Connor from Unleash the Ghouls, and we shall see you next time, ready and waiting with another dose of nightmare fuel.